Over the last few weeks, I've been doing a deep dive on the Browns roster, so it's only natural that I do a tier list for the Browns roster. So what I'm going to do here is rank a select number of players on the Browns roster, and I'm going to rank them through 5 categories. Those categories are going to be All-Pro, which is obvious. All-Pro means you're one of the best players in your position group, hands down. Pro Bowl means you're one of the better players in your conference in your position group. Starter means you're a good starter, but you're not necessarily somebody extremely special. Then role player is somebody who fits well in a designed role, but if they start, they can be a little bit overexposed. Cut's the last tier. That is what it is. That is somebody who's either going to be cut come training camp or be fighting for a roster spot, probably going to have to play some special teams. So let's get into it. All right, so we're going to start here with Austin Hooper, who is an interesting case because sometimes in Atlanta he looked like a Pro Bowl kind of guy, but other times he looked like a solid starter. He's the highest paid tight end in the NFL, which I don't think means that much anymore with how money gets handed out in the salary cap. But I think Austin Hooper this year is going to be a safe bet for Pro Bowl. I think he's going to have a Pro Bowl type season. Baker Mayfield really does like to utilize his tight ends when they're available for him, and I think Austin Hooper is going to be the most available option there. Then you have Austin Seibert. He's trash. He's garbage. He makes me nervous every time the Browns kick a field goal or an extra point. I hope they cut him and find a better solution. I'm not a big Austin Seibert guy. Baker Mayfield. A lot's been said about him. I'm going to put him in that Pro Bowl category right there. I think he could make the Pro Bowl this year. I think this could be his year, his kind of breakout or reclamation year. I really do believe Baker Mayfield can play good this season. Then you got B.J. Goodson. Oh, he's not completely trash. I put him in role player, but he's close to cut. He's not that good. He's a veteran. The Browns don't have veterans at linebacker, so he might have to play. But he's not necessarily somebody you want to start. Probably a role player or special teams guy, but I don't think he's going to get cut seeing that the Browns just signed him. Then you got Case Keenum. That's a role player right there. Not much discussion there. Chad Thomas. Now, that's an interesting one. Some people think he has a lot of potential. Some people don't think he has a lot of potential. Some people just don't think he has any potential. Chad Thomas is an interesting case because his rookie year was non-existent, but he had a solid second year. I'm going to put him in role player. I don't think he's going to have a breakout. I don't think he's ever going to be a starter opposite of Myles Garrett, but I do think he can add some solid depth there behind Adrian Claiborne and Olivier Vernon, whoever ends up starting at that position. Then you have Chris Hubbard. Chris Hubbard was a little bit of a mess last year at right tackle. That's why I'm not going to put him at starter because he's not a competent starter at right tackle. He could be at right guard, but I don't know that yet, so he has to be in role player. David Njoku. I want to put him at starter. I honestly do. I think he's a good player. I just don't think he's consistent enough, and that consistency has cost him targets down the line. I think that's why he's going to be in role player. He's high tier in this role player class. I don't think he is the bottom of the barrel here. I think he's almost at that starter level. He just has to show some consistency, and once he does that, he'll be much better. We got Denzel Ward here. Denzel Ward made a Pro Bowl his rookie year. I think he'll return to the Pro Bowl. Second year playing in a heavy DB kind of defense. I think he's going to get more used to it, more football IQ, and I think he's going to have a better year this year, and he's going to make the Pro Bowl. Donovan Peoples-Jones, I think he's going to be in cut category, not because he's bad or that he's going to get cut. It's just I don't think he's going to contribute a lot. Maybe he'll do some kick returning. Maybe he'll do some punt returns. It depends on how ready he is right now, but he's going to be fighting for a roster spot as a 6th-round pick. Now we got Greedy Williams here, who I don't think he's at Pro Bowl level yet. He hasn't showed that, but he's definitely going to be a starter level player this season. And you got Harrison Bryant. I'm going to put him right next to David Njoku because I haven't seen him play in the NFL yet. But I think those two are going to be battling to be the second tight end in that starter role. All right, now we got Jamie Gillian. I think he's a starting level punter. I think he's pretty good. Not like the world's greatest. He can be inconsistent. Sometimes he booms those punts. Sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he has control. Sometimes he doesn't, but he doesn't hurt the team like Austin Seibert does. That's why Austin Seibert's at cut and Jamie G is at starter. Then you got Jarvis Landry. Jarvis Landry had an excellent season last year. I actually expect him to improve and join. Well, I don't want to spoil anything, but I think Jarvis is going to be an all-pro this year. I think he's going to have one of his best seasons this year in that Kevin Stefanski offense. I think it's going to be a great year for him. Then you got J.C. Treader. J.C. Treader's not going to blow anybody away, but he's a solid starter. Good old reliable guy at center. I like him a lot. Then you got Joe Bitonio, Pro Bowl caliber Joe. He's not an all-pro. I don't think he's one of the best guards in the league, but I think he's one of the better guards in the AFC. So all hats off to him right there. Then you got Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt, I think he's going to be a Pro Bowler. I think that's kind of his level this year. I don't think he's going to be utilized enough to justify putting him at all pro, even though he's definitely talented enough to make that leap. But I don't think that's where his season's going to go this year. I think he's going to play in a more limited capacity, see him out the backfield, see him as a decoy a lot. And that is because Nick Chubb is the other running back in that room. And Nick Chubb, you can guess it, is going to be all pro. Look for a huge year for Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb's going to have to be one of the best players on this roster in order for this offense to work, and I anticipate that being the situation. Now we got Carl Joseph, the safety they picked up. Starter. Good, classic starter at strong safety. He's going to be kind of like Dante Whitner, as in you can expose him in coverage a little bit, but in the run game, he'll be solid enough there. Kevin Johnson is a role player. Actually, Kevin Johnson's fighting to make the team. He can be a role player if he's consistent. He had a decent year in Buffalo last year with a good scheme around him. So, again, he's going to be fighting to make the team, fighting for a role on this team. I don't expect him to have a huge role in this season, but he could be a situational guy if he makes the team. Larry Ogunjobi, he's a higher tier role player. He's very good in pass rushing situations. I know I kind of dogged him in the second video that I made this week, saying he's a liability in the run game, but he is. He is a complete liability in the run game, but he's he's an asset in the pass rushing department. And when you do need a tackle for loss, he can be out there. If he can get a one-on-one with the guard, he's pretty good there. I think he had 10 tackles for loss last year, 5 sacks. So he's one of those guys who can be productive. You just have to take him off the field in situations where he can't, because then he can be taken advantage of. Yeah, Mack Wilson. I think Mack Wilson's going to be a good starter this year. He could make the jump to Pro Bowl. I'm not gonna jump to that one yet. I don't think he's ready for that necessarily, but I think he's going to be good this year, and good enough to hold it down there at the linebacking position in his second year, which is pretty good. Then you got Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett's the best player on this team. If you just look at how good is X at their position, it's between him and Nick Chubb, between who's the better player at their position. But I think Myles Garrett has it because he has all the physical tools, and he's just a monster. I mean, this defensive line is absolute trash without him on the field. That is a credit to Myles Garrett. He's had no help since he's arrived in Cleveland. Hopefully the Browns sign some help, Jadeveon Clowney, but he hasn't had that help. He's done a lot. 10 sacks, 10 games last year. He was the sack leader for most of the season before the incident with Mason Rudolph happened. I expect him to have a huge year this year, especially since that suspension allowed him to get completely healthy. It's going to be nasty. They got Odell Beckham. Odell Beckham's going to have a big year this year. I think he's going to benefit from the change in philosophy. I think he's going to benefit from a more calm and protected Baker Mayfield. I think him, Jarvis, Nick Chubb, they're going to have a huge year, and Baker Mayfield's going to benefit from that. All those reasons, and you add in that Odell's going to be healthy this year, along with Jarvis Landry being healthy this year. I think that duo is going to be spectacular through the air, and I think Nick Chubb is going to have a lot of holes to run through with the improved offensive line. So I think good things are ahead for this Cleveland Browns offense. Then you got Olivier Vernon. He makes $15 million a year, so he has to be a starter. But he was pathetic last year. I know people are like equating his 3.5 sacks to Jadeveon Clowney's 3 sacks. but that's a bad argument because what Jadeveon Clowney is asked to do is he's asked to stop the run. And if you look at the numbers of the Seattle Seahawks, what they did against the run with the Clowney and what they did without him, it's drastic, the impact with Clowney on the field. Olivier Vernon doesn't have that impact in the run game. He certainly doesn't have that impact in the pass rushing game. He has to play better, be more in that Pro Bowl form that he was in New York. So he's at the bottom tier of starter because he's going to start if he's on the team because he does make so much money. He can't just be a situational guy. But he really has to pick it up. You know, he was bottom tier of the league last year. Then you got Rashard Higgins. He's a role player, but this is a positive thing for Rashard Higgins. This is what Rashard Higgins is. This is what he's very good at. He's a role player. He fits that role pretty well, and he's pretty good in that role. So for Rashard Higgins, it's a pretty good spot for him. Then you got Sheldon Richardson, solid starter. I think he actually kind of lived up to his deal somewhat more than most people did on that defense. I think he played solid. At the end of the season, he was stretched too thin. He had to play edge rusher at times because they were injured so much down the stretch, especially against Pittsburgh. But nonetheless, I think he was good enough. Sione Takitaki, he's going to be somebody who's going to be worried about getting cut / playing special teams. Didn't really get on the field last year, and that was with the regime that drafted him. And you can't say it was because he was a rookie because Mack Wilson was drafted around after him. Did see the field a lot. So didn't see the field a lot. Did not show a ton of improvement throughout the season. And this isn't the regime that drafted him, so he's going to have to prove it all over again. So it's going to be interesting to see where he lands. All right, now we got our first rookie. I'd expect Jedrick Wills to be this is going to be high praise, but I expect Jedrick Wills to be a Pro Bowler. He's one of the best offensive tackle prospects to come in the draft in a while, and I think he's going to have a very, very good season protecting the blind side of Baker Mayfield in his first year, flipping to left tackle. Then you got Terrence Mitchell. I think he's a starter. He won't start over Greedy Williams. I think Greedy's going to get the start over him, but he's a very solid corner. I think he's very underrated. I say this all the time, but Greedy Williams, underrated guy. Speaking of underrated, another guy who hasn't been talked about a lot, but Adrian Claiborne, who had a better season than Olivier Vernon last year. He's going to be a role player, but if Olivier Vernon is trash like he was last season, I'd expect Adrian Claiborne to start over him eventually because, again, you have to worry about winning at some point. Then you got Jacob Phillips. This is going to surprise some people. He should be a role player, but I expect him to be a starter quality player. I think he's going to be ready more than people think. And given that your only other option at linebacker is B.J. Goodson, I think Jacob Phillips has a pretty good lane to start at linebacker this season. You got Grant Delpit. I think I'm going to put him in that same category. He's going to be a starter. I wouldn't expect him to be special this year. Let him develop into that free safety role. Let him take some snaps in the NFL without expecting him to be a savior back there. But I think he can easily develop into that. You got Andrew Billings. He's going to be a top-tier role player this year. He could fill in and technically start over Larry Ogunjobi, even though Larry Ogunjobi will be the more productive player when it comes to tackles for loss and sacks. I think he's the guy you want out there when you're expecting a run. Not a three-down player. The Browns don't really have a three-down solution next to Sheldon Richardson, which is a problem, but is a solid enough player. You got Andy Sadejo, a role player, a guy who could start if you want Grant Delpit to run around for a little bit at that free safety position. I think he's going to be very good for the Browns. All right, then you have Jordan Elliott here. I don't think he's going to play a lot. Again, he's in that Donovan Peoples-Jones category where I don't think his role is going to be to play. I don't think he's going to get cut either, but I just don't think he's going to take a lot of snaps this season as a solution to any of the Browns' interior defensive tackle problem. Then you got Wyatt Teller, who I would put next to Chris Hubbard as a role player. I don't expect him to start this year. I would, if somebody on this team is going to be the starter at right guard, it would probably be Chris Hubbard. That's what I'm expecting, but that could change. But I put him there. He's in the mix to start there, but I wouldn't give him the starting position at all. You got Jack Conklin, the right tackle they signed from Tennessee. He is a Pro Bowler, I think. He's going to have a chance to shine blocking for Nick Chubb in a zone run scheme. Nick Chubb famously loves to run on that right side. He loves to run behind Chris Hubbard. That will now be Jack Conklin. And I think that will elevate Jack Conklin's profile enough to make him into a Pro Bowler this season. But that's my thoughts on the Browns roster. That's how I would rank them. Let me know how you would rank them down in the comment section below. Do you disagree with any of the guys I put up here, or do you agree with all of them? Let me know in the comment section below. But again, guys, thank you for watching. Have a great day. Have a good night.